Our 40th anniversary starts at the end of April, so this is our kickoff celebration for 40 years of the National Italian American Foundation. Our 5th year in a row back in Cipriani's. Very exciting night. We've got great honorees, another great crowd, and it's good to be back in New York. So this year we start the Governor Mario Cuomo Award in Public Service. That's dedicated to the memory of Governor Cuomo, really for his lifelong efforts in all he did to preserve his role as a leader for the Italian American community as well.
NIAF, National Italian American Foundation, really is an organization which promotes the values of the Italian American community and our language and our culture, which is vitally important.
I think it's absolutely critical for my children and my children's children to understand where their grandparents came, where their great-grandparents came. This is a way, NIAF is an organization that helps ensure that young people understand kind of, the Italian immigrant story.
When I met NIAF, I found out how much they did across the board. So it was a bigger platform, to learn about, and I really enjoyed the experience.
Our first focus was more discrimination and stereotyping, which over the years, as the Italian Americans began to integrate into American society, this became a lesser problem. So I think that now Italians are getting established, and now the energy is focusing on new directions.
With 25 million Italian Americans, people should recognize how wonderful the culture is, and particularly the values of family and friendship and giving. So I think that's number one. Number two, the social good that NIAF does with scholarships and young people, I think, is a great cause, and it's one that's worth spending time on.
Questa sera vedo delle facce nuove, anche molti amici ovviamente, però delle facce nuove, interessanti, e quindi forse è arrivato veramente il momento in cui la NIAF forse veramente sta dando una svolta e sta raggiungendo non solo le associazioni tradizionali, ma i nuovi e vecchi italo-americani.
I think at this point in our community's growth, after 150 years of Italians coming to America, it represents a time now, multiple generations. I'm second generation on my mom's side first, second on my dad's, third on my mom's. We're a different generation, and I think I see my role as introducing the communities of Italians all over the world in diaspora to one another in a new way, to say, hey, we're more alike than we've ever been, and together we can form a 200 million strong community of Italians around the world that can really do a lot of important work together.
The National Italian American Foundation, we need the strength. They say the Italians don't stick together. We need to stick together. And for me, having a young president like John Viola, I feel like it could be my son, my nephew, my cousin, and the relationship, he could make everybody stick together better, and we need that.
I'm delighted to see how some of the older board, the veteran board members, have gotten behind him. And it really speaks well for the future, because we can't be 60 and 70-year-olds wondering, holding on to old paradigms and wondering why 30 and 40-year-olds aren't joining our groups or whatever.
Things are very complicated now, and even though technology makes it easier for people to communicate what are you communicating? And I think in order to be communicating and connecting in a way that is positive and successful, you have to know where you come from. You have to turn to your heritage and find the strength from your heritage, because things are moving very, very fast. But what you retain is that core value, and that's what it means to be Italian American. I just hope that there's an opportunity for more people to see media that's more like the Italian Americans, the series, because it's authentic. And rather than stereotypes that are portrayed sometimes when people look at Italian Americans with this or with that, this is a real story about real people.
Quando avevo 12, 13, 14 anni volevo imparare l'italiano e era molto importante per me perché io pensavo che eventualmente la famiglia che io conosco, questa famiglia non va a essere qua, va a morire, eccetera. Mia nonna aveva 100 anni. 100 anni. We always said 100 anni and she got it. She got her 100 anni and then she went to God. But io pensavo che era molto importante essere una parte dei radici d'Italia.
È importante per un italiano lavorare nel mondo del media?
Molto importante, specialmente perché la popolazione qua negli Stati Uniti, 25-26% della popolazione ha un po' di connessione con l'Italia. Con tanti italiani negli Stati Uniti è molto importante che ci sono rappresentativi nella televisione, no? Nella televisione che possono parlare italiano o che hanno una connessione con l'Italia.
What does it mean to be here? Well, it's supporting that heritage in the United States and in America and Italian heritage, and it's such a vast, important part of our society. I've always been a proud Italian American.
The Italian-American community is pretty well defined, and NIAF and John and the Frank Guarini, Sal Salabello, Joe Del Raso, all the guys involved in it are really the leaders. They really do a great job. The school, the New York, the La Scuola d'Italia, which is K through 12 Italian prep school, was delighted to have honored John Viola this year, largely and also not only for his accomplishment, but he's a very good role model. So our children profit by that.
If there's one thing that Italy has really managed to aggregate, as we might say, to bring together, that is business and culture, the political and culture. And it's something that we yet in the United States haven't done, I think, within the Italian American community.
The committee here in New York always does a very nice job. So we have a good full crowd, I think a very worthy honorees, and also an evening where we celebrate our great Italian heritage.
Tell me something about this new award, Mario Cuomo Award.
Well, we are establishing a award for public service. And Mario Cuomo, I think, exemplified the best of the Italian-American intellectual and leadership capabilities. No matter what your politics, you have to admire, what he accomplished and how he did it. And so our whole community has always been very, proud to name him one of our own.
I am honored to introduce Governor Andrew Cuomo. He's made Italian Americans proud. Please.
It is truly my pleasure to be with the men and women of NIAF this evening. NIAF meant a lot to my father. He was an Italian-American first. He was the son of Andrea and Immacolata, poor immigrants who came to this country. And he was proud of it. And he never ran from it. He ran towards it because it's what made this country great. And they were that story. And he was proud to be a product of that story. Immigrants who came here only with the promise of opportunity in a country that was willing to work with them. and a country that said, if we work with you, you can become anything you want, even governor of the state of New York, from parents who couldn't speak the language. He had no tolerance for discrimination, not as a citizen of New York, which is the capital of diversity, and not as an Italian American who felt the sting of discrimination himself. My father's way of saying God bless America was to enter a life of public service. It was his way of giving back, and it was his way of using his talents to give back and make this place a better place. My father would often say that public service is the second greatest occupation, second only to dedicating yourself to a religious order and service of God. But after service of God was service of community, and that was public service for my father. My father was a man of honor, and he was a man of dignity. What you saw in public is just what he was in private. There was no public Mario Cuomo different than the private Mario Cuomo. He was one and the same. He was authentic. And it was a life of principle, and a life of commitment, and a life of dignity, and a life of honor. Even towards the end of his life, when someone is getting sick and someone is ill, you try to find goals for them to reach. And the end of last year, last September, October, he was getting weaker, and I said, you know, Pop, just hold on for the election, my election in November. And I want you there with me, and I need you with me, and I want you on the stage with me on election night. And election night came, and he was on the stage with me. It was the last time he was in public, and he walked out on the stage, and I held his hand, and I lifted his hand, and I felt the energy in his hand when he was looking out at the crowd. And we walked off stage, and he said, "Wow, what a crowd. They loved us," he said. My victory was really my father's victory. He believes they voted for Cuomo. The first name wasn't that important. And after November, I said to my father, you're going to make my birthday, and we're going to have a beautiful bottle of wine that we've been saving for my birthday early December. And then he was getting weaker. And I said, Pop, you have to be here for my inaugural, January 1, my inauguration. And he said, well, we'll talk about it. I said, no, Pop, I need to know that you're going to be here for my inaugural. And he looked at me and he said, I will be here for your inaugural. I said, do I have your word on it? He said, you have my word on it. Passed away the afternoon of my inaugural. I was sworn in. My sister put the phone next to my father's ear so he could hear the speech. He heard the speech. He heard the oath. He passed away. To his last minute, he was about honor and commitment and living up to his word. And that's what Mario Cuomo was all about. The entire Cuomo family is honored that NIAF has instituted the Mario Cuomo Award for Public Service. And you could not have picked a better recipient than District Attorney Janet D. Fiore.
It is such a privilege and a pleasure and an honor to have NIAF select me to be the first recipient of the Mario M. Cuomo Award in Public Service. To receive an award named in memory of such a phenomenal philosopher, statesman, such a magnificent human being, a great American, a fantastic Italian American, is certainly a privilege for me and something I am exceedingly proud of. So I was born and raised in the city of Mount Vernon. My family are 100% Italian lineage. We grew up in a very ethnic home that we shared with my grandmother, my grandfather, all of their children, and all of their grandchildren. We all lived together. We ate together. We slept together. We were educated together. And our family, while not educated, knew instinctively the value and the transcendent value of education and educational opportunities in America.
Manhattan definitely loves NIAF. NIAF loves Manhattan. It truly was a great evening, but I really think that Governor Cuomo stole the show. He was amazing, so heartfelt. The tribute to his dad, and then having Janet de Fiore, it was amazing. I really had to fight back the tears. The other honorees were great. There was a lot of passion, energy. I thought it was a fantastic evening.
Grazie a voi.